The streets will never make you grow. It's not a seed, it's a gutter. There's no happy endings in this life. So this is my message to you. The streets will never love you back.
Pow. What's up, guys? Okay. So far, we got 17 people in the chat. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. We got a special guest tonight. Let me give a shout out to my boy, Boston J, my moderator, Don Berlin, my guy, Gerard, Gary Monteleone, Marco, Live and Let Live, Princess Mish, Bully Whispers, Anthony Santoro, Steve Cutler, and thank you all for showing up today. We got a special guest, and this guy who showed up today is, he was a police officer, and I mean, I don't know any police officer that went from a police officer to become a lawyer. I mean, I never heard that before. Usually a police officer, you become a police officer, then from there, maybe you move up to a sergeant and you take a test and you move up the ladder to lieutenant, that sort of thing. But this guy, he went from a police officer, and then what he did was he quit the force and he became an attorney, a defense attorney. And he's pretty good at it too. I was introduced to him by Phil Grimaldi. And Phil Grimaldi was a second-grade detective. He's from Police Off the Cuff. They're good friends of mine also. And so I'm going to put him on, and we're going to interview today Joe Murray. He's a really great guy. You're going to love this guy. And let's get started over here. I don't want to keep him waiting. Joe Murray, how are you?
Hey, Jim. Glad to be here. It's actually an honor to be here. I love what you're doing, the positive message that you're giving to the younger generation. So I want to support that any way I can.
Well, Joe, you know what? I appreciate that. I'm glad you think that. A lot of people don't think that. But, I spoke with you a couple times on the phone, and you seem like you're a very interesting and knowledgeable and a great guy. You really are. You're a sweetheart of a guy. And you know what? You were a boxer too.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with the police boxer team.
And you were pretty good at it too.
Yeah, I could throw some leather.
Tommy Dage speaks very highly of you. I don't know how good you two know each other, but he speaks very highly of you. And he said, Joe was a tough guy back in the day, and you and him were on two different leagues in the boxing.
Yeah. It's sad, Jim, the politics that gets involved, the egos, but we, the fighters, we didn't care. It started out as a PBA team. It's run by the PBA, the Police Benevolent Association. So, but there were, a lot of people involved. Like every time we go to fight, the chiefs are there, inspectors, who wants to help out, who wants to be involved. And then there were a lot of detectives on the job on the team that felt they were slighted. So sadly, the team split, and I was fairly new to the team when I was on it. And when the split happened, so I was a cop and I went with the PBA, and a lot of guys who were detectives and whatnot went with the other team. And it was so sad because all we wanted to do was fight. I even went to them. I said, look, I don't care who's running the match. I'll fight for both of you. I don't care. And we couldn't do that. They didn't want that. They wanted everyone either you pick this side or this side because of egos and bad blood. And so it was sad. So guys like Tommy Days and I, who, we would have ordinarily been sparring partners and working out and training with each other and doing all this stuff. And then my good friend, Johnny Doyle, who ultimately he became a sergeant, and he was my last partner on the job. I drove him as his chauffeur as a sergeant. But again, like he was fighting with the other team, and it was just stupid. But Johnny was the greatest guy in the world, as most of these guys, I would say all these guys on the team, they're really just fantastic people. If you ever want to meet like good people, you meet the cops. There are great cops, but then cops who are fighters, anyone who's a fighter, like there's that, that camaraderie we have for each other, respect for each other, and, you help each other. It's just, so it was sad, but I'm glad that we've connected now later in life, Tommy, and I'm looking forward to a nice relationship with him.
So when you were a police officer, you had the boxing ring. So if there's bad blood between, say, you don't like somebody, you just go in the ring and you punch it out.
Yeah, well, that's funny that you bring that up, because the PBA boxing team, we would fight other boxing teams. Like we went to England a bunch of times, Ireland, all over the country, and national tournaments. So we would fight other teams. And the other team, they did that as well, but they also did what we call smokers, what you described. You got some bad blood in the precinct. All right, listen, you and me and the next smoker, let's go, and guys would do that. And then you bring your crew and they bring their crew. And it's really, it's a nice night out. It's the fights are so entertaining, especially when you know them.
Nice. So, all right. So, let's warm up to each other. So Joe, where are you from?
I grew up in Howard Beach in Queens. I'm a Queens guy. You're a Brooklyn guy. So,
yes.
But yeah, I grew up in Howard Beach. I went to John Adams High School. My father was a cop, and then he rolled over to the fire department. He came on 68, and he wanted me desperately to do that. So, but I have 4 brothers. I was the middle guy, a younger sister. When we graduated, I went out to work. I had my high school diploma. I went out to work in Kennedy Airport. That's what we did. So I went out there. I was working in a warehouse first, then driving a truck. Worked at a few different container stations there. And I also had a dear friend of mine, Billy Sharkey, who, God rest his soul, he passed away. He was a boxer, and he was also a bouncer in a lot of the bars out in like Long Beach and Island Park. So he brought me in to help out and bounce with him at this club called the Sandpiper in Long Beach. And it was a lot of fun. So I was working in the airport, working in the bar, and then I took the police test. And I scored well, and there was massive hiring at that time. So I got hired. I graduated high school in 84. I got hired in 87 to join the police department, which was fantastic. I loved it. I loved being a cop. It was really great. Again, the people you meet and the camaraderie and all the stuff we did together, it was really a great experience. And then I joined the boxing team, I think in 1990 or 91. I was in good shape. I always worked out. I was always, played, sports and wrestling and football. And so joining the boxing team was like a dream come true. It's so funny. Remember, I told you my father was on the job, and then he went over to the fire department, because in the 60s, it was a different kind of job. So he went to the fire department. He kept pressing me, take that fire test, take that fire test. So I took the fire test. But unfortunately, I got a 99, but the physical exam was being done at Columbus Circle, and there was a guy that died during the test. So they suspended any further testing from there. And then I got assigned to Midtown North as my first, after you do your police academy, then you go to a training unit. Then I went to Midtown North, Midtown Manhattan, the theater district, the Diamond District. It was beautiful for a young guy. I'm 21 years old. All the waitresses, models, actresses, all the guys are gay because they're all in the theaters. It was like incredible. So my father was like, "Look, they're gonna start the test again. You better take that physical test." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know if I want to be a fireman." hanging out in the bars, going to the hotels, the restaurants. Everybody loved us because crime was really bad. In the late 80s, 90s, crime was bad.
It's like now.
So, well, no, I'll give you a perspective, Jimmy. 1992 was our worst year of homicides. We had 2,200 homicides.
Wow.
Now, I think last year we had 500. And it's a lot to us. And I'm not saying it's not a lot. God forbid it goes back to what it was. But it was over 4 times that. There were bodies dropping everywhere. So at that time, and in Midtown, with all the tourists, they were getting raped. They were getting abused left and right, taken. So being a cop on patrol, everybody loved you over there. The restaurants, the hotels, you know, and a lot of the guys that were doing security were off-duty cops or retired cops. It's just such a fun place because everyone kind of like, you know, worked together. You know, I got into a little trouble there. I got kicked out of Midtown North. I got sent down to the 7th. And I'm fighting with the team, and I'm having a great time. A dear friend of mine from high school, we played football together. We won the championship. We all still kept in touch even to this day. He calls me and he says his brother got arrested by 3 detectives. And I know his brother. This guy's Tommy Emma is his name. And his brother, Joey, also played at Adams, but he was a little older than us. And he was over after there, he went to East Stroudsburg. He was playing football there. So, like, we were close, the football team. So he goes, my brother got arrested. 3 detectives went out to his house. They ring the bell. And, you know, he comes down. They grab him, pull him in the house. They handcuff him. They're slapping him around. Some bullshit. I was like, what did they arrest him for? It was a domestic from 9 months ago with his ex-girlfriend. He goes, I think the girlfriend has friends that are cops, and, you know, now they're leaning on him. So also at that time, Joey, who got arrested, he was working security at the Garden, so he knew a lot of cops. So when he gets arrested, he starts dropping names of everybody else, not me, everybody else that he knows. And these guys didn't give a shit. The one guy, the main guy, just, you know, kept abusing him. And so finally he gets to the precinct. He calls a friend of his. He calls and talks to the detective. Other guy comes to the precinct to arrange for the DAT to get him released. So he finally gets out. And then he calls me up through Tommy because I worked. This was the 10th precinct. I worked in the 7th precinct. So he's already out. It's done. But he's worried, like, what's going to happen? Is this an ongoing thing, or this guy's going to be, you know, mind you, they went out to Nassau County to lock him up on a misdemeanor, stupid domestic from 9 months ago that nobody cared about. So I said, okay, you know, let me talk to my squad. I was a cop. Let me talk to my squad, see if they know this guy, and maybe they could give a call, say, look, you know, keep it on the up and up. I go to my squad, they don't know him. At the time, there were 2 cops that had to go to the Garden. There was a detail there, and they asked us for a ride. So me and my partner, we drive them over to the Garden, drop them off, and I'm driving back, and I'm like, isn't the 10th precinct right here? I didn't even know where it was. 10th precinct was right there. I said, you know what? Screw it. Let me just run up there. I'm telling my partner, let me run up there. I got to talk to this guy. I didn't even want to tell him what it was. So we go in, we go upstairs. I see the guy. I don't know him, but I just asked for him by name. And he goes, oh, yeah, I'm Patrick. So I said, look, you arrested a friend of mine yesterday, Joey Emma. And, you know, he said there was a problem. But as I say that, as I mention his name, I see him inflating his chest. He starts poking me in my chest. Your friend's a fucking scumbag. Ooh. Can I curse on this thing, Jimmy?
Sure you can.
So he starts poking my chest. So I push his hand off of me. And now I'm in shock. I'm a 7th precinct cop in uniform in the 10th precinct. And I got this detective now, you know, getting physical. So I push his hand off of me. He says, yeah, you fucking handcuffed him and then smacked him around. So then he shoves me. He goes, "Fuck you," and I said, "No, fuck you." So then he throws a punch and like your opening that you do. Perfect. That's exactly what I did.
Automatic. That's it.
Done.
You cracked him in the jaw.
Broke his jaw bilaterally. I hit him here, both sides. Like it was a mess. He had to have surgery. They brought him to the hospital. So here I am, a uniformed cop from the 7th precinct inside the 10th precinct. And I'm like, get up. Get this guy up. Like, what do I do now? So sure enough, they get him up. He walks out. And I'm like, I don't know what to do now. What do I do? Do I wait here? Do I go home? Do I leave? So a bunch of detectives come running in and they like do a semicircle around me. Nobody would get close to me. Nobody wanted to make that move. And they're like, what are you doing here? What? I said, I was just talking to this guy. And, he got physical with me. Lieutenant comes up. She takes my gun. I'm like, all right. And my shield. I said, all right, this is a problem. So a friend of mine who knew what happened, the police department is the worst with gossip. Buzz went around the whole borough. Oh, shit, Joe Murray went in there, knocked this guy out, blah, blah, blah. So a friend of mine went to the patrol supervisor. He's the sergeant in charge of our squad. And he told him, he says, yeah, that's Joe up there. So he went to a friend of mine in the precinct, a rabbi, who, very close with him, with the boxing team. So this is how funny this guy. So he goes to him and he goes, look, Joe's in trouble over there. He calls up the duty captain because he's also a department chaplain. He works for the police department. So he calls the duty captain, and the duty captain, thank God, was this guy, Mike Ovis, a real knockaround guy. I was like, the perfect guy. So he comes in, he goes, look, I got a phone call from our friend. What's going on here? Tell me what is this really just a fight? Is there something else? I said, no, he arrested a friend of mine. It's a stupid thing. So he takes me out of the arrest processing room and he puts me in the CO's office. He goes, stay here. Let's see if we can work this out, whatever. Boom. The detectives see this and they flip out. Bullshit, this guy, he should be locked up. So they call the chief of detectives, Joe Borelli. Call Joe Borelli up. Borelli calls up the duty captain. Get that piece of shit back in the arrest processing room. He's getting arrested. He's going through the system. I think I'm the only cop that I know of on duty, use of force, arrested in uniform, and they wanted to put me through the system in uniform.
Insane.
Crazy.
Did they put you through the system?
Yeah, went through the system.
What, they made you change your clothes?
Bunch of cowards. A dear friend of mine who's also on the boxing team, he's a heavyweight with me. This guy, Mike, he heard what happened. So he came down and he said, he goes, listen, I'm the alternate delegate because there were no PBA delegates. He bullshit his way. He was no delegate. He goes, I'm the alternate delegate. I want to be with my guy, union guy. So they let him up and I see him like, what are you doing here? So he says, yeah, I heard what happened. This is bullshit. So Mike has his way of, talking to people. He tells internal affairs, leave him alone. I'm going to process the arrest. I'll fingerprint them. You guys don't need to do anything. I'm going to take care of it. Okay, great. I'd rather have him do it anyway. So Mike is processing the arrest and doing all the paperwork, the prints. And now they want to bring me downtown and I'm still in uniform. I'm getting fucking fingerprinted in uniform. So Mike says, you're not bringing him downtown in uniform. He's not going to the cells in uniform. So he goes, over my dead body. So he goes back to the precinct, gets my stuff out of my locker. I get changed, thankfully. So now we're heading down from Midtown down to 100 Center Street and Central Booking. So we're in the back of the car. Mike is sitting next to me. He's like my escort. The sergeant is driving and the lieutenant is in the passenger seat. And these are IAB guys. And, Mike kind of just pushed them back. They didn't cuff me. He was like, no, you don't need to cuff him. He's with me. So, funny story. This is what kind of guy Mike is. We're driving down on the FDR Drive to Central Booking, and we're gridlock traffic. So I'm looking at like FDR Park, and I'm looking, it's a nice day out there. I'm like, I said, Mike, I lean over. I said, Mike, I think I'm going to make a run for it. So first words out of his mouth, this tells you who he is. He goes, well, you better hit me, but don't break my jaw. So he goes, where are you going to go? I said, not to fucking jail. So he goes, look, we're Manhattan cops. We know these DAs. It's bullshit. Let's go in there. Let's talk to them. Don't worry about it. I said, all right, fuck it. I go down there. I go to Central Booking. Weird experience. I walk in because I normally made a lot of collars. And what you do is you make the arrest. You get changed. You go down. You drop off the body. So they're like, Murray, what do you got today? I'm like, no, I'm the customer today. So they bring me in. They take pictures, the mug shots. And it takes a while, but I finally get arraigned, and I get released, ROR. The judge was kind of funny. He was yelling at me. He goes, I know you guys are going to run into each other, but I'm issuing an order of protection. Don't go have any contact with each other. Stay away, okay. So I was at the time training with Tommy Gallagher, who was a great trainer. He had a gym on 101st Avenue. And so I called Tommy up, and Tommy was an ex-cop too. So I called Tommy. I told him what happened. And he goes, look, I got the perfect lawyer for you. I forget the guy's name. I think it was Dom Amorosa. He goes, he's representing Ray Mercer right now. And, he's a great lawyer. I called him up. He's expecting you to go down and meet with him. I'm like, Ray Mercer? I mean, Ray Mercer at the time, he had a fight with Jesse Ferguson in the Garden, and he was alleged to have bribed him to take a fall because he was going to get a big payday, and he got prosecuted for it. I was like, yeah, Ray Mercer's a fighter and stuff. Like, this is a different kind of case, though, So I meet with the guy, great lawyer. He's in a Woolworth building. But he didn't want me to go to the grand jury. I so desperately wanted to tell my story. I threw one punch in self-defense and I backed up. He was like, yeah, the grand jury's dangerous. I don't want you to go. I was like, I'm going. So I ended up, through a friend of mine, Billy Romano, he put me in touch with this guy, Nick Gravanti. Great lawyer. I think the best lawyer I've ever come across. And we're still friends to this day. So Nick left no stone unturned. We went to the DA's office. There's something called Queen for a Day. You have an absolute right to remain silent when you get arrested from beginning to end until the verdict is over, everything. But in a case like this, where you have a justification defense, I threw one punch. Under this contract, it's a contract you sign with the DA's office called Queen for a Day. They will allow you to come in and tell your side of the story or present whatever evidence you have. And if for some reason they decide they still want to prosecute you, the agreement is they will not use what you said in their direct case against you. But they'll only use it if you take the stand and say something different. Then they'll say, wait a minute, you were in our office on October 5th. So I thought it was a great idea. I went down there. I told him what happened, chapter and verse, looked him in the eye. I said, I threw one punch in self-defense and backed up. So I think I convinced the prosecutor. Great guy. Long story, but I'll tell you what happened to him. Great guy. So I then had to meet with the bureau chief. I met with the bureau chief, went through the whole thing again, spoke to him. I thought they were on our side, and so did Nick. What I learned was that Chief Borelli and the detective union was putting so much pressure on the DA's office to indict me.
They wanted a collar.
They wanted blood, in the worst way. And
yeah, they didn't like you.
So the DA's office, they decided, we don't want to be involved in this fight. We're going to present it to the grand jury. So I don't care. That's what I want. let me go tell the grand jury. And I went to that grand jury and I worked that room. I told that story. I'm looking at the people and I see them nodding. Great. I got you. I'm going to the next one. You know, and I told them the story. They asked me questions. I answered them questions. Now, this is the funny part. The detective testified the same day. We both went into the grand jury, one after the other, and told our story. So I later learned that when the grand jury voted no true bill, that means they didn't indict. There's no charges and everything's dismissed. When they did that, he went back and he told this detective, you know, and he told me this later. He says, you know, this detective takes the chair and throws it across the room like he had a temper tantrum. So, you know, I mean, it was just indicative of the kind of guy he is, you know, that such a sore loser. Anyway, so I win. I think it's over. Okay, charges are dismissed. Grand jury didn't indict. I'm done. Nope, we're going to fire you now. I said, how are you going to fire me? You couldn't even indict me. So it's a long story, but my lawyer, Nick Gravante, was great, worked with me all throughout this thing. And he filed a civil suit against me. He wanted $1 million for all his pain and suffering and nerve damage and everything else. So, you know, lawyers, money. I'm paying. So I had to hire somebody to do the department trial. So he referred me to Bruce Cutler. Now, everybody thinks of Bruce as like the gangster lawyer, but Bruce was a DA for like 25 years. He tried hundreds of cases, knows a lot of cops. He represented a lot of cops. His father, Murray Cutler, was a detective who retired and became a lawyer. So, you know, I hated that stigma that he had, but I knew he was a powerhouse. So I was like, all right, yeah, perfect. Bruce takes my case. He loves the case. He goes, I can't believe these people. They still want to go ahead and prosecute you on the job. So Bruce does his magic. All of a sudden, they come back with what they call a nolo contendere. I don't have to plead guilty. First, they wanted me to plead guilty to this, that, the other thing. I was like, no, because I have a civil trial on top of that. I'd be dead to rights because once you plead guilty, you can't change that. So I was absolutely, let's go to trial. So they come back with this nolo contendere, which means you admit nothing, but you accept the penalty. So I had to accept the penalty, 60 days, a year's probation. Great. This happened in 1993. I'm still working as a cop. The civil trial, I think I resolved the department charges in 95. The civil trial took 8 years, January 2001. By that time, criminal lawyer, civil lawyer, department lawyer, divorce lawyer, I was broke. I couldn't afford a trial lawyer to try this $1 million personal injury case. And the cops were great. They raised money. They gave me money, but the bills were just unbelievable. So on the eve of trial, the firm that I had withdrew from the case, and the judge's law secretary is like, look, this is not criminal. We can't even appoint somebody. You need a lawyer. I was like, I'm done. I'm busted. I got to do it myself. I had a very dear family friend who happened to be a judge in Manhattan. He was the JHO. He's retired. So he invited me down to his court. And he goes, watch how you pick a jury. Listen to these guys. These are good lawyers. Sit in. And I would sit in on his proceedings to pick up stuff. So it was the best My Cousin Vinny you ever heard. I tried the case. I picked the jury, 9 witnesses. I did not have a losing day. I even had witnesses that I was going to call, but, you know, I had a lot of friends advising me what to do. And one of the lawyers was like, you know, some lawyers don't know the lesson. When you're winning, stop. You don't need to keep talking because you're going to talk yourself into being found guilty of it. So great advice, because I did not have a losing day. My day came up where they rested. I said, I rest. They were shocked by that because, you know, I put them on notice of who my witnesses were. They were coming down.
What made you rest?
I did not have a losing day, Jimmy. I didn't need a piece of paper. I talked right to that jury. I talked to those witnesses. I cut them up. The best was I got to cross the detective. So we haven't seen each other in 8 years, and he's on the stand. And by this time, he was in homicide. I was like, there's no way I'm moving this guy. Let's see what I could do with him. We're going back and forth. And I'm like, all right, so for the jury's purposes, where was I? Put me where I was. I moved by the desk. Where were you? Oh, I was here. What? So I said, Judge, can I have him step down off the stand and position him where we were for the jury? Because they're right here. And she goes, yeah, that's appropriate. I'll allow that. This guy comes walking. We haven't seen each other in 8 years. Wow. And now he's walking at me like, because now we have to position ourselves. So I was like, where was I standing? so he was hysterical. He was a stumbling, bumbling mess. He kept contradicting himself. First he said he was sitting on the table. Then he said he was leaning against the table. And then he says I cold cocked him. Total bullshit. The jury, it's fantastic. And I learned from that trial. You watch that jury because you see the things they respond to. First, he said he was on the desk and his feet were off the floor. So then they looked over. When I was doing it, my feet were off the floor because he was positioning me. Now that he was down there, then he got up on the desk, but he was only against it and leaning against it. And all the jurors at the same time looked over to see if his feet, it was just amazing. So now they have me on the stand. And I was getting a little cocky, admittedly, because I was crushing this guy. And they're asking me, okay, you said he punched you. Did he hit you? I said, yeah, I think it just like glanced off me. I don't even remember. So he goes, did you have any injuries? Did you suffer any injuries? So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I did on my hand. So, there's that old saying, if you don't know the answer, don't ask the question. I could see the panic on this lawyer's face when he asked it. He goes, what was the injury on your hand? I said, I don't know. It must have been all the glass in his jaw. At that point, there were 2 jurors that like busted out. There was hysterical laughing and then he asked me, he goes, you think this is funny? I said, I do think it's funny. A cop goes and arrests somebody, handcuffs him, smacks him around. I go there the next day to talk to him about it, and he gets physical with me, and now he's suing me because I defended myself. It sucks, that I wasn't handcuffed, So I just went back at them. And that's why I just felt I won this case, So I get down off the stand. Jury it was a funny thing. So I had friends that were in homicide, and they were telling me like everything he was doing. So they were like, listen, he's planning a victory party and retirement party tonight. We're all going to be in court. So I get to court. Everybody's there, all these detectives. So the jury gets the case, and they're deliberating, and they can't reach a verdict. So they got to come back the next day. So we go back the next day, and there's no crowd, and the jury comes in with the verdict. And I'm surrounded by all these white shirts, the court officers. So I'm like, well, this is not a good sign, And he was like, no, we do this in every verdict. We don't know what the verdict is. Oh, I was like, all right. So they come back, they read the verdict. It was a total defense verdict. And in civil, it's a little different than criminal. Criminal is guilty, not guilty. Civil, their narrative. So the first question for this jury was Officer Murray justified in striking Detective Petrak? If your answer is yes, report your verdict. The case is over because I was justified. If not, then go to question 2. Was he acting in the scope of employment? And then they went to damages. It's a whole narrative that they have to answer these questions. So, of course, they get to the first question. Was he justified? Yes. Okay, case is over. Now I beat it in the grand jury. I took a no-low plea in the department, and I win a jury verdict in Supreme Court in Manhattan. The job was so angry. They were so upset. They thought this was going to be it. I was going to get my due, the whole 9 yards. the whole time I was there, I kept getting chased from one command to another command, get transferred, but I was always one step ahead of them. Like I got sent to the 3-2. I get sent to the 3-2, and I got this CO. He's after me. He's on top of me, and I'm butting heads with him. So the ICO, who's a lieutenant, great guy, he comes to me and he goes, listen, you're a good guy. I don't want to hurt you, but the CO already found out you're going to get this 60 days and a year's probation, and he told me I have to do you. What that means is when you're on probation, you get monitored monthly. They do monthly evaluations by the ICO, the Integrity Control Officer. So the ICO knew I was a good guy. I knew I was getting screwed and felt bad, but he goes, look, he told me I have to paper you up and you're going to get fired, essentially. So make a long story short, I ended up getting transferred. I had another friend that got me transferred to another place to get out of there. I did my probation. I went to a precinct. I got sent to a precinct in Queens, the 115, where I knew the CO. I knew the ICO. The ICO and I used to carpool to the academy together. So like I wanted to make sure I was in a safe place. It was great because I had friends on the job too that liked me and knew I was getting screwed. So things kind of worked out for the job, but because of the retaliation, I was constantly getting attacked. But winning this trial, I was like, wow, man, that was the greatest experience of my life. Winning in court, Supreme Court, against these very seasoned lawyers, including the city. The court counsel was against me, trying to prove that I was just a nut job. So I really had this passion to go to law school. So when I got the verdict, the judge was like, you should really consider going to law school. I was like, wow, and I had another department case pending. I had to go to the trial room for another case. They just kept going after me. Then 9/11 hits. And 9/11 was devastating. I mean, so many people, so many people suffered and died, and friends of mine. And, I was there the day of, after the buildings fell. I was off duty and I responded, on duty. But as you can imagine, by this time, I had so much pent up anger and, because I was constantly being hunted by these people, trying to get tripped up, trying to get fired. So I was ready to join the military, but I had 2 kids at the time, and my son, he was, I think, about 5. And I remember 9/12, the day after, like when we came home or whatever, after working all night, and then we went back off duty digging in the piles. But on the 12th, when I had to go back, my son was devastated because his friend, like his best friend in school, I think they were in kindergarten, this kid Ray, his father works at the Trade Center, and he didn't come home that night. He was devastated. When I said I have to go to work, I'm going to the Trade Center, he didn't understand. He was 5 years old. He didn't understand the building's down already. I'm not going to get hurt. All he could think of was my friend's Ray's dad went to work at the Trade Center and he's now gone, so that really hurt me, just the pain in his eyes. And, so I had decided I was either going to join the military or I was leaving the job and I'm going to pursue this law thing, because what a great experience, having been a cop, been on the stand, cross-examined by some really good lawyers and a lot of not so good lawyers, so it really gave me, hey, I could do this, you don't have to be some superstar. I could pull this off. And that's why I did the trial and I won. I said, I got to do this. So I didn't even have a college education. I had to knuckle down, double up summers. It took me 3 years. I got my undergraduate I retired in 2002. And then I graduated in 2003 because I was going to school since 2000. So 2003, I graduated Queens College. And then I went to CUNY Law School, which was fantastic because it was like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. It kept going up every year. But compared to like even St. John's was like 30,000 a semester. It was incredible. So I went to CUNY, which was great. And I, everyone was saying, oh, Murray, the boxer, he's never gonna, I didn't have a college degree. Yeah. Okay. I graduate with honors.
I tell you, you know what? You overcame the odds. I mean, it's like a success story.
When you're faced with that, it's a real test.
You threw a punch, and your whole world went tumbling down.
The punch that was heard around the world. One stinking punch.
But you know what? It gave you drive to become an attorney.
A lot of stuff happened to me along the way too. That was it opened my eyes to the criminal justice system. When you hear you're innocent till proven guilty, I really believe that. No, that's not true at all. Everyone assumes you're guilty. My union cut me off. They stabbed me in the back. I had to sue them. To provide me what they call conflict counsel, because they were representing other people in this case. So they can't possibly represent me. And they were telling me, you're on your own. I was like, no, I got my lawyer, and we sued them and we won.
Isn't that conflict of interest?
What's that?
Is that a conflict of interest?
It's a conflict. You can't represent both sides of the V, There's this detective versus Murray, and these are witnesses for him, and they're defending him. So I ended up getting conflict counsel, except that when Patty Lynch got elected, it was 2000. I think he got elected in 2000. I did not like the man. I didn't like him. I didn't trust him. Patty was a community affairs cop. Community affairs are the guys with the light blue jackets. They're not cops. They're politicians. They walk around, they meet the business owners, and hey, we're here for the CO. He was not a street cop, knows nothing about the street. I was backing a guy, I think Eddie Mahoney, who was the Manhattan North trustee. Great guy, and it was always there for me every time I got in the hopper and was in trouble. So I backed him, on top of which he had a guy from the 10th precinct who was the delegate there, who again was trying to screw me on his ticket. They called it the blue line. So I went against Patty. I trashed them. I unfortunately, he wins. So what does he do as soon as he wins? Oh, we have all these conflict counsel lawyers. We're going to institute a cap. How much is Joe Murray's bill right now? Oh, $9,500. Okay, $9,500 is the new cap. Anyone at 95, they're cut off. They got to get their own lawyer. So by that time, he's a vindictive piece of shit. I can't stand that guy.
Wow.
So, but even my own union going against me. So yeah, that was sad. It was, I love the job. I love cops. I represent a lot of cops. And even in the trial room recently, I just did a trial in the department trial room. And it's such a pleasure to represent cops, because today cops are so maligned. It's disgusting how people treat cops. They blame everything on the cops. And these are really just people from the neighborhood who wanted to do the right thing by the neighborhood, and they want to help people. I have this desire to help people. I could be a millionaire right now if I really was like a real lawyer, but I end up taking all these cases, these hard luck cases. People have no money. People got fired. And I help all these people out. And I love that about the job, because there were a lot of good people on that job that really took it for the right reason, But so many people come to me now and they're like, why are you a defense attorney now? I was like, why? First of all, I'm helping the same people that I was helping when I was on the job. We're not animals. When we arrest people, we're not enemies with them, and we try to help people, and we try to coach them and tell them, there's a great program called the Cops and Kids program. A retired sergeant, Patty Russo, runs it over in Staten Island. Great program. There is no better equalizer, in my opinion, than the boxing ring. You can talk all the shit you want, but when you get in the ring and put those gloves on, it's you against him, And I never experienced something where you get into the ring, you're trying to kill somebody, and then as soon as the bell rings, you're hugging and kissing. Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
So
it builds respect.
it builds respect, and it's such a wonderful, in my career, I fought in the Golden Gloves 3 different years. I made it to the quarters twice. I wasn't the greatest fighter. I didn't win a lot of decisions. Excuse me. I didn't win a lot of decisions. I had heavy hands.
Yo, I heard you were pretty good. I heard you were pretty good.
I knocked a lot of guys out or down or whatever, but even guys I knocked down, in the amateurs, it only really counts for a point. It doesn't mean it. It's like another punch.
This photo right here, Joe, this photo right here, tell me about it.
This was against, this is funny. We were fighting at the Marina del Rey. This is the London boxing team. So this guy came over. He got interviewed by Tom McDonald from Channel 5. And he was like, hey, what are you going to do? He goes, I didn't come 5,000 miles to lose. I'm going to kick this guy's ass. Or what, I dropped him twice. He was tough as nails. I dropped him twice. And the second time I was like, stay down. And he, the corner, he got up. The corner threw the towel in. And he threw the towel back. Like this guy was, I guess, so embarrassed too because he was talking shit and he got dropped twice. And he was like 20 pounds heavy on me. He was a big guy, but it was so much fun. I really enjoyed that, with the boxing. And that's another one. That was a Golden Gloves fight. That was, I think, I fought a lot at the Elks Club on Queens Boulevard. But yeah, that was another good Golden Gloves fight. I fought in the Gloves 3 times. And then in 95, I ended up fighting in the finals of the Metros against a guy named Monty Barrett. Monty Barrett fought for the title twice. He ended up as a pro. He had 2 belts, 2 world championship fights. He lost. He knocked out David too. A great fighter. But he was killing people in the amateurs. People were afraid to get in the ring with him. And it was just me and him. So I ended up losing in the first round. He dropped me with a shot. I got up. I went back at him, whatever, standing 8 count. And they were like, oh, you're done.
He was that good, huh?
Oh, man, this guy was good. He went to the Olympic trials, but there was, I don't know, something happened politically. And then he turned pro, and he just did great. Now, small world, Monty Barrett went to John Adams, too. Same high school. He played for the football team. We were just a couple of years apart, but we knew they were like legacy people, like the Kimbroughs. I played with Glenn Kimbrough and Kevin Kimbrough, but they had a younger brother, Jeff Kimbrough, and he played with them. We had a lot of mutual friends. And after high school, he went into boxing. I went into the boxing. And then after he finished his professional career, we ended up hooking up with a company that he started called the Barrett VIP Group. We got together. It's kind of a sports concierge service. Like he fought 18 years in the pros. He knows everyone. He has so many connections. So we would arrange dinner with, professional fighters for a nice fee. And then we would go go to the fights either at Barclays or the Garden, in a box. And, through his contacts, it was a great thing. We were just getting it off the ground, and then COVID hit, which crushed us, and we had Zab Judah with us, 6-time world champion. It was me, Monty, and Zab. But what a small world, we were in high school, same high school, same neighborhood, and we just ran in different circles until we collided, But that's what boxing is, people, fighters, and there's such good people. It's just such a great. I'm so fortunate to be involved with two of the best communities, the police community and the boxing community. I just think it's wonderful, But here's some weird stuff that happened, Jim. I got to tell you, life is so funny.
It is. It is funny.
You never know. So I'm at a dear friend of mine I worked with. He became president of the Retired Detectives Association. And I'm a member. I'm an honorary member. I was never, matter of fact, Bruce called me up. Bruce Cutler, when he cut the deal, He had Eddie Mahoney on the phone, the two of them to try. I was hard-headed. I didn't want to hear it. The two of them trying to convince me to take this no-low plea. So he's like, look, you know, I forget it was him or Eddie. And they were like, look, we got good news. We got bad news. I was like, all right, what's the good news? He goes, the good news is you're going to keep your job. I was like, great. Okay, what's the bad news? He goes, you no longer have a career. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you're never going to get promoted to detective. You're a cop. And I didn't care. I was happy to be a cop. I could have passed the sergeant's test. I never even took the sergeant's test. I loved being the cop on the street, being the guy. I hate bullies. I loved when I ran into situations like that, you know, and got people who were being preyed upon and, you know, fought back. And, you know, I had just a lot of wonderful experiences. You know, I felt like a superhero. I mean, Jimmy, I swear to God, when I first started, we're jumping across rooftops, me and my friends that, you know, we came on together. I was like, can you believe this? They're paying us for this. You know, we're doing this. It was so much fun. So small world, let me get back to that. So my friend Kevin becomes president of the Retired Detectives Association. So he's being honored and he has the first table right by the dais. Friend of ours was the guy who was going to invoke everyone, all the new officers, Judge Lasack. And I'm sitting at the table, at his table, right next to the dais, and I look across the table, and I can't believe what I see. I see the prosecutor that prosecuted me. I haven't seen this guy in 20 years since he prosecuted me. So, you know, getting a drink, whatever, I walk up to him, and I said, I don't know if you know who I am. He goes, I know exactly who you are. So then he rattles off the case. He knew it chapter and verse, what happened, this happened. I said, how do you remember that 20 years later with all the thousands of cases you handled? He goes, you know why? Because that was the last case that I was allowed to do in the trial bureau. No detective would work with me after that. I had to be transferred. They put him into rackets, believe it or not. So, what a small world. So he's like, what are you doing? I heard you became an attorney. Yeah, I'm an attorney. I'm doing it. I had this great case. I got picked up on the SEC action. It was Agape World, that big $400 million Ponzi. And I'm working it. And I got these guys in the SEC action. And the criminal case started to unfold. The U.S. attorney that had the case is a guy that lived like 2 blocks from me in Howard Beach. I was like, you gotta be sure. He approached me. I remember as a little kid, and he approached me, and I was like, are you shitting me? So we start talking, and he goes, look, I represented these 2 guys, and he goes, you can't, if it goes criminal, you can't represent both of them. Which one are you gonna represent? So I told him, I represent this guy. He goes, I want him. I want him to come in and see if he'll proffer or whatever. I said, well, what if he doesn't proffer? What are you going to do? He goes, no, he's definitely getting charged. And the other guy may be getting charged too anyway. So they're both going to need, you know, criminal to do the, I said, well, I'll definitely do the criminal. Let me get back to you. So I get a good friend of mine who I actually did my first federal trial with. We did co-counsel on, but I brought him in on this case. And we kind of, I guess, overpriced it. So these 2 guys decided to go with this other firm called Maya Swazi. So I'm telling this story to the prosecutor who prosecuted me. And, oh, I just had this case. I can't believe it. And I lost it to some lawyer at Maya Swazi. And I was like, damn. I was like, so what are you doing? You're still in the DA's office? He goes, I'm at Maya Swazi. That's my case. So,
oh, my God.
I was like, are you kidding me? First you try to indict me. Now you steal my case. It was just so funny. You know,
Wow. That's so what's New York City now, right? What's the big crimes out there? You know, any gun cases?
Guns are big. Guns are big. Guns have been big. You know, in the last few years, you know, they call it the iron pipeline, but to be honest with you, my feeling is that they're just not prosecuting. There's something called incapacitation. There's deterrence, and incapacitation. Deterrence is essentially, hey, if you get arrested and convicted of a gun, it's a minimum 3 years. If you're a predicate felon, it's 5 years. If you're a violent predicate, it's 7 years. Like, so that's supposed to have a deterring effect on people. Holy shit, did you hear what happened to Joey? He got arrested for the gun. 3.5 they gave him. First offense, what, you know, it's supposed to have that effect. Unfortunately, a lot of prosecutors are not prosecuting, and they're not, you know, we have these minimum, don't get me wrong, I don't like minimum sentencing. I think each individual should be treated individually. I don't like mandatory minimum. But these guys are all circumventing that. Oh, how about attempted this or that? Oh, how about a nonviolent that? So I think that's what's breeding this culture of, you know what? We'll get out of it. We'll work some deal. We'll do something. And I think it's sending the wrong message. It's no longer deterring people.
I agree.
And people are now committing these horrific crimes. Did you see the poor guy on Sunday going to a Sunday brunch, and that psycho walks up to him, shoots him, and kills him?
Insane.
Doesn't even know him, never had anything to do with him, killed him.
Insane.
Subway crime is the worst right now. The spike in crime that we're seeing is mostly in the subways. Homicides are down, believe it or not. They're actually down a couple of percent, but it's the only thing that's down. Grand larcenies are up, larceny from the auto, assaults are up. Like, everything is up, you know, heavy up. And it's really sad because I had such high hopes for Eric Adams. I knew him on the job. We were friends on the job. And when he got elected, I was happy he got elected. You know, this is a guy who lived through all that blood and nonsense. He was on the job with the body count. We had 2,200 homicides in 92. He knows what it takes to suppress crime and to fight crime.
Yeah, you would think that he would be for the police.
He's not gonna let this happen. You know, I'm still holding out. You know, I'm still holding out. It's, you know, it's only been 5 months, whatever. I'm hoping that he turns the corner because, you know, he's the guy that can fix this. Out of all those idiots that were running, you know, he's been there and knows what it takes to get it done. So I had high hopes, and you know, those 2 cops that were killed in the 3-2. I worked in the 3-2 after I got shipped around so many places. I worked there in the 3-2. Let me tell you about cops. The 3-2 precinct, busy house. Every year, the 7-5 and the 3-2 would be like in competition for the most homicides. And it was like 100 homicides in each precinct. You know, they were just so heavy with the body count. So in a precinct like that, a real busy precinct, the cops are so close. They all back each other up. Well, I can only imagine when this came over the air about these 2 cops getting shot and killed on 135th Street. The precinct is like a block away. It's a block and a half away on 135th Street. I can imagine everybody pouring out onto the, you know, the streets, running down the block. You know, what a horrific scene. And I thought he and the commission spoke very well at the funerals. They were backing the cops. They were calling on everyone to stop this nonsense. You know, I ran for district attorney. I forgot to even tell you that. In 2019, funniest thing, nobody was running against. We had Tiffany Caban, who wanted to just not prosecute anyone and except cops, wanted to lock up cops. And ultimately, she was locked in a dead heat with Melinda Katz. Melinda Katz, been a politician her whole life. She's never stepped foot in criminal court. He was the borough president. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Nobody's going to challenge this girl. So I threw my hat in the ring. It was late in the campaign season. I really had Ange ran my whole campaign. She was great. And we only had like 2 months to really dig in. But I was like, you got to be kidding. I'm a retired police officer. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I represent the clients affected by this. I also do victim advocacy. I represent the victims of crime. I do civil litigation. And I was being interviewed by the New York Post. And I said, I'm a violent felon myself, because of the thing that happened to me. And they made that the headline. I sent you that thing. Did you see that? It was funny. They made that the headline. I'm a violent felon myself. As a violent felon myself. It was so funny.
That is funny, I tell you.
But can you imagine, Jimmy? I'm this nobody cop, kid from Howard Beach. I joined the police department, a boxing team. This crazy thing happens to me. I try the case, I win, go to law school. I was teaching criminal justice. Like, I was really intense with it. I learned everything I can get my hands on. Teaching criminal justice at ASA College, I have my own practice, and I'm living the life, man. And that's why when I see you turning lemons into lemonade in a positive way, doing positive things, I'm your friend. When I see somebody like that, that's great. That's amazing. That's the beauty of this country. What other country could you get away with and do what we're doing? You're able to change your status, your position, and the freedom to do. If you put your mind to something and do it, you can do it here. And that's why I love what you're doing, because that life, maybe when our grandparents were immigrants and coming here, there was so much discrimination and everything. Maybe you had no choice and you had to do this, and you associated together and you helped each other. And this country is just such a great opportunity just there for you. Whatever you want to do, start a YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Like, you can do anything. Sure. And if you work hard enough and you put the effort in, which I know you're doing, I see what you're doing. I tried to do a channel, but I'm just doing a million things. It's called Allegedly Guilty. And, I thought it would, I love to fight back against the government. I can't stand the overreaching, overpowerful federal government. And it's totally unconstitutional. A lot, in my opinion, what's happening with the federal government. They keep putting their hands into areas they don't belong. In the Constitution, Article 1 enumerates the specific powers that the federal government has. Even better than that.
Like for example, something on a school block, is that federal?
If you look at 922, 18 U.S.C. 922, Jimmy, I looked it up before because I was dying. I'm going to read this to you because this is what I'm talking about. It's unconstitutional and it's an overreach. Here's what it says. 18 U.S.C. 922Q, Section 1. The Congress finds and declares that A, crime, particularly crime involving drugs and guns, is a pervasive nationwide problem. B, crime at the local level is exacerbated by the interstate movement of drugs, guns, and criminal gangs. C, firearms and ammunition move easily in interstate commerce. That's the federal hook, interstate commerce, and have been found in increasing numbers in and around schools, as documented in numerous hearings in both the Committee on the Judiciary, the House of Representatives, and the Committee of the Judiciary in the Senate. D, in fact, even before the sale of a firearm, the gun, its component parts, ammunition, and the raw materials from which they are made have considerably moved in interstate commerce. Do you hear that language? This is how the federal government's justifying now being able to prosecute gun crimes under the Interstate Commerce Clause of the Constitution, because it affects interstate commerce, because these things travel in interstate commerce. We now are going to step in and take over where the states previously had autonomy to have their own criminal laws and their own criminal prosecutions. So, I mean, it goes on and on, but this kills me. While criminals freely move from state to state, ordinary citizens and foreign visitors may fear to travel to or through certain parts of the country due to concerns about violent crime and gun violence. And parents may decline to send their children to school for the same reason. The occurrence of violent crime in school zones has resulted in a decline in the quality of education in our country. Jimmy, it goes on and on. It's bullshit. It's unconstitutional. The 10th Amendment makes it clear. And the 10th Amendment essentially says anything that was not enumerated to the federal government as a power of the federal government goes back to the state and the people. That's what our framers wanted. You know, we used to have the Articles of Confederation. That was the first thing the framers came up with. A very weak central government. They couldn't even raise taxes. It fell apart. They had another constitutional convention, the second constitutional convention, where they came up with this constitution. But they were so afraid of another King George, an overpowerful federal government reaching across the ocean, you know, telling us what to do in our states. So they tried to create this dual sovereignty where the states were autonomous and in control. Here's a perfect example, and I get on my soapbox, and I'm sorry, Jim, to be so long-winded, but
No,
I love this shit. It's driving me crazy. I learn more and more every day.
Yeah, you're very passionate.
The federal government, you know, the sentencing guidelines, the federal sentencing guidelines are draconian compared to state. Now, wait a second. We live in a democracy. We live in a democratic republic. We don't actually vote for the laws. We vote for representatives who enact the laws. Here is the proof of what I'm talking about. If you look at how we enacted laws in the state court system, and we elected state representatives and state prosecutors, you look at then the federal government and the federal law and the federal sentencing guidelines for essentially the same crimes, they are 10 times worse. How can that be if we're in a democracy where we get to elect our representatives to enact laws that we want? It just proves how distorted and what an abomination the federal government is. They're trying to impose their will on us. And a lot of these laws, if you read through them, the criminal code, they have their jurisdictional hook. I had my first criminal trial in federal court in the Eastern District of New York. It was fantastic. It was a gambling case, promoting gambling, conspiracy to promote gambling. And it was a stupid case. It never should have been in a federal court.
Was it Italian guy?
All Italian guys. They thought it was organized crime. That was the whole thing. They thought it was organized crime. It was a couple of games out in Staten Island that were running at different locations. I thought it was a big racket. It wasn't. It was just guys wanting to go play cards, you know? And my guy, unfortunately, was a player. He was a player who on one occasion...
Were they cutting the pot?
Just happened to be where the FBI agent, they had an FBI agent working, and he had a watch on with a camera.
Oh, wow.
And he's filming my guy, the dealer, putting the money in, sticking it in, you know, like one, because they had no dealer and he's a regular player. They asked him, hey, could you sit in? We have nobody. The games were weak. So, you know, there was a great decision that came out of one of the guys. Who was it? It was Judge Weinstein, I think, who kind of, he first struck it down and said, you know, Texas Hold'em is not really a game of chance. It's a game of skill. So, but then it got reversed by the Second Circuit. But you got to say to yourself, how does the federal government have the authority to come in and enact laws and arrest and prosecute people federally for a card game? Usually it has something to do with interstate commerce. Okay, you know, there was a game in Jersey and they're crossing borders or whatever. Okay, the feds can get involved. These were games that were just neighborhood, right in the neighborhood. Where's their authority?
Yeah, that's bullshit.
What they do is they have this organized crime. I forget the name of the bill. But then there was this gambling thing. And again, remember all that stuff I just read to you about the guns? They did the same thing because gambling is influential and gives so much money to organized crime. And they use that money and they get political influence. And they do it. We have to do this. What? So I don't do a lot of federal practice, but now if you look, the Supreme Court, this whole big hubbub that you're seeing about Roe v. Wade being overturned. Yeah, I don't care what you think about abortion, and I take no position here just to prove a point. That was long overdue. That was 9 unelected lawyers who voted on a case. It wasn't even unanimous. I think it was 5-4. But these are just unelected officials who are creating this phantom right to abortion that never existed. So it was long overdue to be struck down. I was so happy to see that because I could care less about abortion. It's not my issue. But all they did was say it's up to the states. Each individual state can enact their own law. Thank you, Supreme Court. We're going to start seeing more of that. They took on abortion and struck it down. Look at these federal statutes. That's going to start happening, where we'll be able to challenge these statutes and send them up and say, no, this is an overreach. I remember a long time ago, I was researching this, and I think it was
now, wouldn't they leave that up to the governor to make that decision?
Our elected representatives in the state, we elect them, and we contact them. We tell them, hey, I want abortion to be legal. I don't want this shit. Well, I don't care. I want it to be legal. You tell them, and then the legislature, we have a bicameral. We have the Senate and the Assembly. They vote on it. They pass it. They give it to the governor. The governor likes it. The governor signs it. Done. And if you don't like it, you vote them out, or you move to Jersey or wherever else. This is what the country was made to do.
I tell you, you know what? I learned a lot from Donald Trump.
Yes.
I really thought that when you're the president of the United States, that you got all this power, and he didn't have no power. All the governors had the power.
Yes.
So I realized, I said, you know what? I said, the president of the United States, I said, he's got the federal power. I mean, he has the power to give to a certain state. And if they accept the money, they got to go by his authority. If they don't accept the money, that they're the president of their own state, the governor. So
that's called that's what we call carrot and stick. The federal government throws out the carrot, they offer money. Like this whole DWI thing drove me crazy. Federal DWI is now 0.08. New York used to be 0.10 when I was locking people up. It used to be 1.0, but because there was some highway bill that was being passed, they were offering highway money to any jurisdiction that accepted it, but they had to change their law. No, unconstitutional. No. This is how the dirty, slimy federal government tries to get in and take more power away from us. And unfortunately, these governors are not in a position to turn down money. They're all broke. Everyone's in a deficit. They don't know how to spend money. So they accept it and they go, oh, what the hell? We'll drop our DWI to 0.08. That I don't care about. What I care about is they're giving power to the federal government. We should control, our local representatives should control how we want to live. We are able to create laws at the state level to protect us. There are plenty of gun laws protecting people from carrying firearms near schools. We can do that. We can prosecute them. This is what drives me nuts. And I see Eric Adams, we're calling in the feds. We need the feds. And there's a lot of federal prosecution of gun cases now. The state's handing them over to the feds.
You know, you talk about the schools and what happened the other day with Texas and you know,
Yeah.
the kid kills his grandmother, he shoots all the kids. I mean, in all honesty, why isn't there security in all these schools?
You hit it right on the head. Hit it right on the head, Jimmy.
I mean, every state should have security in the schools.
Absolutely. You know, I grew up with that. I don't know. Where did you go to high school, Jim?
I went to Shallow and Lafayette in Brooklyn.
So we're close in age. Do you remember cops being in the school?
Yes, they would walk through every so often. Yes.
This is my yearbook. I pulled this out because I was on Police Off the Cuff, and we were talking about this. And I said, I remember. I don't know if you could see it.
Of course, they would walk through. Absolutely.
Yeah, 2 cops. These were the cops who were in our school, and we got to know them. They were there, but they were armed and ready to take action if action needed to be taken. And John Adams was no duck walk. There were a lot of problems in that school, a lot of fights, riots. So why aren't we doing it now? You know, we have to learn the lessons. You know, they used to rob banks and shoot them up, and Bugsy Siegel. Then they began to harden them. They you know, put the glass up and put all this stuff. They did what was appropriate to protect our money. Okay, why aren't we protecting our kids?
Exactly.
Let's put the resources in there. How is it that there's a door that anyone can walk off the street without being stopped, open the door, walk in there with a gun? I don't know what kind of gun it was, AR-15. He walks into this school with a gun. Somebody filmed him unaccosted by anyone. No one stops him. No one confronts him. And he walks in. It should not happen. But the answer is not to ban all guns. The answer is to harden the schools, make them harder to penetrate. It's not hard to do.
Absolutely. And I don't understand that. I really don't. But you know what? In this day and age, a lot of politicians are corrupt. You know, I mean, it's terrible because this country, everything's about money. You know what? We're giving all this money to other countries instead of, you know what, building our country. So I don't know. America, when I was a kid, was a lot different than America now. You know, for example, I'll tell you a quick story. You know what? I was on this morning. I get a phone call. A friend of mine works on a school bus. Okay, and she goes, Jim, you know what happened to me today? And she explains the story. She says, this kid was on the school bus, and he goes, Allah kills. Killing is good. Okay, so she goes, no, killing is not good. Killing is bad. And she corrects him. Now she has to make a report with this kid. This kid's 5 years old. And he's saying, Allah is good. Allah kills. Killing is good. So she has to make a report, and she's telling me, and she's saying, you know what? This is what's coming into this country. These people want to kill us. They hate us. You know, and we're accepting them. We're giving them money to live. They're living good, and the American people are fucking going broke, getting destroyed. The country is getting destroyed.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jim, but we have homegrown people here that hate America. A lot of them are in the Democratic Party. They hate America.
Yes.
And they're trying to destroy us. This whole pandemic and everything that went on. And I used to be a Democrat, you know, especially, you know, the experiences I had. I was more liberal in criminal justice, sunlight. Let's see what's going on behind closed doors. I don't trust government. So I was very liberal that way. And even with the criminal justice, I'm a defense attorney. I want to see the evidence. What do you mean I got the evidence? Take the plea, or we're going to show me the evidence, you know? So there were some good things that came out of that with that criminal justice reform. But I really do believe they hate America. I sat in on when I was running for office, I sat in on the city council hearing, the subcommittee land use committee. There were 8 members, and they voted to close Rikers Island and to send it to the full city council. And when they all voted unanimously to close Rikers Island, they all got up and made these speeches. this is a great day. It's the first step to closing all jails and all prisons because
Makes no sense.
people don't belong in cages. They're not criminals. They need to be held and hugged, and you know, we don't need to punish people anymore. This is what's going on. They want to destroy us. I really do think this is a plan for America to fall from within. They don't want this capitalist government, which is so great, allows me, guy like me, to come out of, pull myself up, become a lawyer, this is the greatest country in the world, and it's
you're never gonna get freedom like this.
Never.
And
you know, the people that don't like it and hate it the most, they want handouts. They're just sitting there. Wait, I want another check. Give me another check. I want to get my government cheese. I got to get what? Get out and work and earn. What's the problem? I couldn't believe it. After the pandemic, there were so many companies that were trying to get their employees to come back. My cousin owns a moving company. He goes, Joe, I can't get anyone to work. You know, he goes, I forget. It was funny. He goes, I didn't know Father's Day was like a whole weekend. He goes, my employee was like, no, it's Father's Day. I'm not working this whole weekend. But he's telling the boss, I'm not working the whole weekend. Okay, I get it. It's Father's Day. You're going to do something that day, whatever, Friday or Saturday, whatever. Why not work? And he was like, Joe, I can't believe this. I want to pay people. They don't want to work. I mean, what are we doing in this country? That so many people, and these young people who did get screwed, I've said it all along, these colleges and universities, once the government started backing these student loans, meaning everyone gets one, they were then raising tuition, raising the student loan. These kids are taking mortgages out to pay for their college. So no wonder why. And then they get out of school and don't understand why they can't apply this basket weaving, you know, gender equality. How am I going to make money with this thing that I was brainwashed into taking in college? You know, it's just horrible what's happening, you know, in this country.
It's crazy. Unbelievable.
Hear me.
Wow.
I love that.
But I tell you, you know what? The Democratic Party is nothing compared to when JFK was in it. You know?
Yeah, the Democrat Party is, oh man, it hurts me because I didn't like Republicans. Republicans, well, you know, as much as everyone credits Giuliani for doing such a great job in the city and whatever, you know, he was a bit of a tyrant. He gave us zeros in our contracts. I remember protesting at City Hall with signs, zeros for heroes. You kidding me? You did this? You lowered the crime? I thought we had a hand in it somewhere, you know. Throw us a bone. No, zeros. So I was never really a big fan of the Republican Party. They were anti-union, and I love unions. I was always involved in unions. You know, when I worked out in the airport, I came this close. I was in the local 295 shop, and I was going to get put into the union there. But all my uncles worked there, and they were in the union, and it did them well. They all worked, retired. They had pensions. You know, unions are good. You know, look at Walmart. Walmart is non-unionized, although I think they just started one union. Half of them are on welfare. They're getting, you know, their medical benefits through the state. It's terrible. You know, Costco's a union outfit. They can earn. They earn a decent living. They have their own benefits. They do well, and the company does well. So I was never really a big Republican fan. I voted Republican federally because I was very, you know, important to me. I thought national defense and protecting our borders, and you know, but socially, they you know, it wasn't. I shouldn't disparage them now because the Democrat Party now has gone off the deep end, and the Republicans are now the Democrats of the old day. You know, they're the ones looking out for us. You know,
so
little guy.
So Joe, where's your base out of? Where you represent? Like, say someone catches a case, what do you just do? Queens, 5 boroughs?
I do the 5 boroughs, mostly the 4 boroughs. I do have a couple cases in Staten Island, but it's such a hassle to get there. I mean, and I have some good friends that I've developed through this in Staten Island. So I enjoy going there. When I go there, it's an all-day thing. I don't just go do the case and run out. But ordinarily, to answer your question, my office was right across the street from the Queens Criminal Court in the Silver Tower. That was what the building, and that's where all the lawyers, most of the lawyers in that area, we were all in the Silver Tower. And it was great because I would run down Queens Boulevard, do a case in Queens, run down Queens Boulevard, jump on a subway, head to Manhattan, do a case in Manhattan, run to subway back to Brooklyn. Like you could really hit all Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens in one day. You could really do that. The Bronx, I never took the train to Bronx. I drove to the Bronx because I'm Northeast Queens. I hop over the bridge. But Staten Island is damn. I would take a lot of times. I would take the train to Manhattan and the ferry over, which I was never a big ferry guy. I never had a reason to, but it's a convenient way to do it. If you get into Manhattan, you hop the ferry. It doesn't even cost you anything. You jump on the ferry, and
that's the best way to do it.
And the court's right there downtown where the ferry pulls in. So I pretty much do the city. Once in a while, I can't stand Nassau County. Nassau County, they're like tyrants, and they're bullshitters. They have no evidence, but it's the policy. It's the policy. We have to, I had a case there. It was a financial crimes case. A dear friend of mine who, unfortunately, he got caught up in some stupid thing in federal court with a bunch of guys.
You stepped in, you helped them?
Years ago, it was an anomaly. You're an indictment of 1 or 10 people and everyone's taking a plea and it's all or nothing. What are you going to do? He took the plea. But that's now following him everywhere, that he pled to this thing. And now Nassau County brings a case, and that's all I hear in Nassau County. Well, organized crime, this, that. I said, no, I know the guy. We grew up together. He's not organized crime. Would you stop this? And so they're pushing a case that's bullshit. There's no evidence. It's bullshit. So we're holding out. I'm waiting. You want to go to the grand jury? I'm pretty good at that. We'll bring my client. I'll prep him. I don't care.
Good for you.
But Nassau County, I mean, you can't, I tell people it's kind of funny in the city, I like in the boroughs talking to the DAs or whatever, and the judges, like everyone's pretty friendly. Their clients, they're not too friendly with, they don't like or whatever, but they like us. And we even drink together and stuff. Nassau County, they don't even like us. They don't like the lawyers, not just the clients. I don't get it. Like who are you? Who do you think you are?
Now, for example, you know what? Like you said, you have a drink with the DA, and you know what? What do? You feel him out. You talk about the case. What is it?
Yeah, you talk. I mean, there's a couple of. It's sad, but there's a couple of bars that we all go to, and you bullshit, you talk, whatever. But we're real. That's where I think more of this should be done. Like in Manhattan, we had Forlini's. I've been going there since I was a cop in '88. Like a great place on Baxter Street behind the courthouse. They now closed. But you would see like the DAs and the cops, defense attorneys, like we would all end up in the same place. And you could be real and you talk to people and you see them start to let their guard down. Everyone's always posturing and bullshitting and trying to work their case and get a good deal. But you're out drinking with somebody. It's a different story. Don't bullshit me.
And you know what? Now you're getting friendly. You know what? You got a little alcohol in you. I mean, you open up a little. And,
I miss that human contact. That was the thing that I hated the most about this COVID, that we just couldn't be together,
That's the thing. You know what? Like us growing up, we socialized with other kids. Today, it's hard. I mean, everyone's socializing through this,
Yeah, true. But yeah, people are people. You get to see. I'm not the big bad boogeyman. I'm a decent guy. And we talk, and it's a good way. It's I don't know. I think it's more fraternal when you mingle and have contact with each other. And I'm glad to see like a lot of the there's some good judges coming on the bench. Like there's one judge who I just happened to be. She was representing this guy on a burglary. It was a double burglary in Manhattan, and she was about to go for her judicial. She was running for Supreme Court. So she was like, "Hey, could you help me out with this case? You know, I got so much on my mind. It's a great case, whatever." So I worked the case. We tried the case together. But it's so good to see, and now she's a great judge, practitioners, people that were in the trenches, that were lawyers representing clients and have multiple deadlines. When you ask one of those judges, say, "Judge, I got a problem. I got this, I got that, whatever. Could we please adjourn this?" They're stepping over themselves to help you because they were in our shoes. So many of these judges, and some of them are good, but some of them are institutional. Like they were law secretaries and law clerks, and they worked for the courts, and they never really had to go out there and bust a nut and try to, handle a business and a practice. And so, they're very, unforgiving when you're in front of them. So I love it that they're now bringing in a lot more practitioners. Even if you're a district attorney, okay, you're an institutional person, but you've worked there, you've had a caseload, you know what it's like. But I love the guys that are in private practice who then go on the bench. I think that's a great asset to everyone involved. I think they're more better equipped and capable and more fair, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty I'll tell you, Joe, you know what? You're a hell of a guy, man. Seriously. I mean, seriously, look, you're a success story. I mean, just the story you shared with us, with punching another cop and going through all this, and you know what? I mean, you throwing that punch changed your whole life.
Wow. That's an understatement. I can't believe it. I mean, I was on my knees at a certain point. I filed bankruptcy. I was busted, and I put everything in that one basket. I was like, I got to get my degree. And I remember because so many people were talking, "Oh, that fucking moron. He's never, he's a boxer or whatever."
Of course, absolutely.
I graduated college. He's never getting into law school. I got into law school.
Great,
he's never passing law school. I graduated law school. Oh, he's never passing the bar. Let me tell you about the bar. I studied so hard for the bar. It's 2 days. The first day is the New York bar. It's the New York part of the bar. And I really walked out of there scared. I was like, it was too easy. I was like, I must have missed so much because there were essays. You had to do essay questions. You got to spot the issue and write the law and make applications. So I went to my wife. I was like, I don't know. We put all eggs in this, and I don't know. So the second day is what they call the multi-state. Everyone in the country takes it at the same time. It's basically, universal common law that everyone has to know. It's all multiple choice. And there's like 2 right answers to every question. I was pulling my hair out after that. I get the results back. I passed with flying colors. Like you could wave into certain jurisdictions because you scored high enough on the multi-state. I don't know what everyone was talking about, how hard the bar is. The bar is laborious. It's not a 1-hour quiz. It's 2 days of, grueling, but the law is based on common sense. I love that I went to law school. As an adult, because as a kid, I wouldn't have appreciated it. I went as a former cop who'd been arrested. I knew criminal law. So it enhanced my knowledge greatly of criminal law, and it was helpful in constitutional law because a lot of criminal law is based on Constitution and how the Constitution is framed and structured. Tort law. I got sued. A few times as a cop. I got sued a couple times. But I even got sued by Andrew Cuomo. When I ran for district attorney, I ran into him. And I tried to confront him, but his security guards were there. I tried to confront him about it. That piece of shit sued me when I was a cop some stupid thing. It was really just a stupid, honest mistake that cost nobody anything except time, 20 minutes. But anyway, so, but in tort law, I knew it because I litigated. I tried my own case. So no matter what it was, family law, I got divorced. I went through this whole custody thing. It came so natural. It came so easy, and I just love it, Jim. I got to tell you, I would encourage anyone. I was intimidated by lawyers. I'm a blue collar guy. I came from blue collar family. We all worked in the airport and civil service. And I was like, wow, now I'm with all these white shoe guys and I'm beating them and I'm winning. I'm winning case after case. It's so funny.
I'll tell you, you had a good advantage with a lot of life experience.
I started doing civil stuff when I came out. I worked for this firm, Rossi and Crowley. Great people. They did a lot of construction litigation and real estate. It was really a great small firm to get your feet wet. Did that for like 6 months, and I went and did my own practice. I was so excited. I wanted to take on all this crazy stuff, but I got case after case. Like I had the woman who was accused of extorting Elliot Spitzer of how much was it? $300,000, $400,000, and I was like, wait a minute, this is. Oh yeah, so this is so funny. So I have the case, and I have the higher ups of the Bronx. The Manhattan DA is friends with Spitzer, so he had to recuse himself. So they had the Bronx DA come in, and the Bronx DA, of course, because it was Spitzer, they had their top people on this case, the big bureau chiefs and division chiefs. So I'm working with them, and they're like, Joe, look at all this evidence we have. Look what we have, and look what she did, and look what we have, And I said, kind of simply like this, I was like, I'm like in the newspaper every day when we go to court right now. So you want me to take a plea that she goes to jail and she gets deported and her life is ruined? Or option B, I go to trial, I get to cross-examine the former governor about his sexual encounters and assaults of this woman. I'm in the newspaper every day, and we just might win. So I'm going to go with option B. I'd have to be an idiot. So, and they couldn't understand it. What do you mean? So ultimately she was charged with a 20-count indictment, felonies all over, grand larceny. I think it was grand larceny 2 was the top count. And they finally come to me with an offer of have her plead guilty to attempted petty larceny of not Spitzer, totally, because I said we are not pleading guilty to anything Spitzer. But there was another guy they pulled into the case as a victim who signed her lease. He was like a surety on her lease. I said, plead guilty to attempted petty larceny, which is a B misdemeanor. She won't be deported, and she'll be released immediately from jail. I had to go to her and explain this offer, and she wanted it. First, they wanted money. They wanted her to pay money back to Spitzer for like damages. So we had a conference with the judge, Judge Solomon, who passed away. What a great guy, though. I had a few good cases in front of him. So they wanted money. So I told the prosecutor, I said, let Spitzer pay the money. Let him pay. Oh, they didn't want her to pay Spitzer. They wanted her to pay the other guy. So I said, she has no money. Let Spitzer pay. They're like, whoa, we can't do that. That's unethical or whatever. Then we have a conference with Solomon. So we walk in. As soon as we walk in the door, he says, all right, sit down. You guys sit down. Me and the two prosecutors. He goes, all right, so I understand it's very close to a deal, a B misdemeanor, but it's stuck on the restitution. So they were like, yeah. So he goes, well, why doesn't Spitzer pay it? So It was so funny, Jimmy, because these are Bronx prosecutors, and Solomon is a Manhattan judge. The case is being prosecuted in Manhattan. They thought I had like an in with him, that I had ex parte communications with him, because after I told them, let Spitzer do it, the first words out of Solomon's mouth was, let Spitzer pay the money. So, it was just so funny. But you got to be tough with these people. A lot of lawyers aren't.
Hey,
a lot of lawyers
you picked the perfect career for you. But Joe, you know what? We're on here almost 2 hours, an hour.
Oh, Jimmy, I'm sorry.
Hey, Joe, you know what? But look,
yeah.
No, that's great because you're good. But Joe, what's next for you?
You know, I ran for district attorney. I really think I don't want to be a politician. I don't think a district attorney is really a politician. That is the most powerful job, elected job you can have as a district attorney. Like I defended Daniel Pantaleo. A lot of people told me I shot myself in the foot. I was a Trump supporter. I defended Pantaleo, who was the cop who had Eric Garner, and they said,
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That was a good cop. He was a good cop. And if you watch that video, he was a gentleman. He was not yelling, screaming, no gratuitous shots on him. He was trying to talk him down. But when it came time, hey, listen, no, you're not arresting me. Oh, yes, we are. He took him down in like 4 seconds without a scratch on him. Sorry for Mr. Garner, and I really am sorry he died, but it wasn't Pantaleo. It was his 300 pounds, his diabetes. It was, he himself has been through the system a number of times. You know how to walk through this system. Okay, you got me. Turn around, cuff you. Yeah, I'll use 2 sets of cuffs. I'll make you comfortable. It was all in Garner's hands. He could have done this the easy way. He chose the hard way, and he died. And I defended that guy. As a matter of fact, if I won, the left would have lost their mind. If I won, one of the things I was doing is I was going to enact something called the Untouchable Squad. We were going after politicians. Like we were going hard. Because at the time, if you remember, de Blasio and his wife, somehow she was put in charge of this $1 billion Thrive NYC that disappeared.
Yeah.
None of these politician district attorneys would ever challenge Bill, but I was going after him, and I was going to. So this is what was going to make their heads melt. I was going to rehire Pantaleo to be my driver, because I'll tell you what, after watching the way this guy handled himself, he conducted himself like a gentleman. He was an active cop. The anti-crime, they're the real hunters. They're out there proactively looking for crime and putting themselves in harm's way. There is nobody better. My test, when you talk about police conduct, is would I want this guy responding to my son or my daughter's calls for help? Absolutely. I would have hired him back, and I would have loved it. In my first meeting with the mayor and the police commissioner, hi, I'm the new district attorney. Oh, you know my driver, don't you, Daniel Pantaleo? Would have melted their heads,
But Joe, listen, hey, thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. I mean, listen, hey, you're very, your stories are awesome. I feel privileged and honored of having you as a friend, and just having you on the phone where I could just call you anytime, and you give me a lot of good advice. But what's Memorial Day for you?
Memorial Day for me, unfortunately, is a work day, because I have a state case that's going to trial. That's that last link that I sent you about all the guns that were 21 guns.
Yeah.
Stupid case. It should be dismissed, but it's going to trial. And I brought Bobby in because we try a lot of cases together. Bobby, the guy I mentioned to you, Fantone. Then I also I represent a whistleblower police officer in Mount Vernon for about 4 or 5 years who Mount Vernon is a disaster. What's going on up there, and they really retaliated against this guy. Went after him. So we filed a lawsuit, and recently, Joe Biden directed the Attorney General to appoint. They're doing a pattern and practice investigation of the Mount Vernon Police Department because of the work my client did in there. So I'm very happy about that. But that civil case is now going to trial. We just met through conference with the judge on the federal case, and he's like, "You're picking a jury July 27th. You're on 5 days notice. So wherever, the court is available, we're going to be on trial." And then I have a money laundering case in the Southern District that is, unfortunately, it started out as 5 defendants. I think we're down to 3 now. One of them, another one's may take a plea, but it's a money laundering bank fraud case that in front of Judge Ronnie Abrams, where she's now scheduled us to go to trial. I think we're starting June 27th. So now is when you get all the influx of discovery, and the 3,500 materials coming probably in another 2 weeks. So I'm really just bogged down with trying to get all these cases ready for trial. So my Memorial Day, I'll have a cold one here or there with my girlfriend, and sadly, but I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love what I do. I probably take on too much because it's hard for me to say no to people. I just love to be in the trenches and help people and, right that wrong and get them some relief. But I do too much. I mean, I'm stuck in so many different forums,
Sure.
criminally, civilly.
All right, Joe. Well, listen, I'm going to make you go. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's such a pleasure. Like I said, I learned about your story. Phil Grimaldi thinks the world of you. Tommy Dades, Bill Cannon. And it was an easy one for me. Seeing what you're doing exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help people change their lives and move in the direction you're doing it. I'm here to back you up.
Thank you so much. Listen, I'm just trying to make my crooked path right, That's it. Every day I'm just working on myself and trying to do the right thing. Listen, it ain't easy. It's hard, but I stay focused. I got my 2 kids, thank God. And I got good people around me. You're one of them. So I appreciate you very much. And, thank you for coming on the show. And I'm a phone call away if you need me.
Thank you. Same here, brother. Be good.
Thank you so much, Joe. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Everybody, Joe Murray, great guy. Great guy. If you get into any trouble, I'm telling you right now, you call Joe Murray, okay? Don't get any gun charges, whatever you do, okay? But sometimes, every so often, you need to throw a punch. Just be careful who you're throwing at, because it might be a punch that comes back, But all you people who showed up today, I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. I love you guys. Let me give a couple of shout outs. Gerard, Don Berlin, I saw you in the chat. Thank you so much for making that video. I appreciate it. Also, Colonel Edward Riley, thank you so much for making that video. Angela NG, great show, Jimmy. Thank you. Princess Mish, thanks, Jimmy. Thank you. Real Buffer, seriously, don't be discouraged if you fall your first test. If you fail your first test, don't let it kill you. Absolutely. Great show, Jimmy. Gary Monteleone. Thank you, Gary. I hope you're feeling good. We punch back. Michael Hensley. Yes, we do. Once again, Jimmy, it's been great. Thank you, Lewis Cole. Brad R. What's up, Brad R? It's always good to see you in the chat. Coach, I see you. Jimmy, I am back down in Florida. I'd love to see you. Absolutely. Let's get together this summer. Joe is one of your best guests yet. I tell you, what? He really is. He really is a great guest and very knowledgeable, a true friend, a dear friend. And if you had him as an attorney, you know what? He's going to fight for you. You don't get too many attorneys like that. They always want you to take pleas. So, just stay out of trouble, but hopefully you'll never need an attorney. Craig Clayton, love you, Jimmy. Craig, thank you. Love you too, man. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. Austin J, love you, big bro. Same here, Jay. You know that. Everyone for showing up. I love you guys. You are the best. Thank you so much. Until my next video, I'll see you again soon. Everyone, have a great weekend. Bye, guys.
The streets will never make you grow. It's not a seed, it's a gutter. There's no happy endings in this life. So this is my message to you. The streets will never love you back.